Sir, now we move on to our next topic. Our next speaker is Dr. Ramandeep Singh. Dr. Ramandeep is working as a professor at Advanced Eye Center, PGI, Chandigarh. His main areas of interest are diabetes, AMD, retinal surgery, and we all know he's a very fine retinal surgeon. And he has more than 185 publications in various international and national peer-reviewed journals, and has given more than 250 talks in various national and international conferences. And he also has co-authored a book on diabetic retinopathy. He was also awarded the J.M. Pava Award for Best Paper at Vitreoretinal Society of India meeting in 2007. And he has also won Best Paper Award at annual meeting of American Academy of Ophthalmology at Chicago in 2014. His topic today is retina practice in COVID times, and that is, I think, a very burning topic. How he has modified his practice during this corona times. Over to you, Dr. Raman.
Uh, Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeet. Am I audible? Am I audible, Dr. Sangeet?
Yeah, yes, you are audible.
So, thank you, Punjab Ophthalmological Society. Thank you, Dr. Kalia. Thank you, Dr. Shakeen Singh and Dr. Sangeet, Dr. Karamjeet. So, I mean, my topic is not how I modified it. We have, for the last 6 months, we all have modified many things and we all know about it. I am not going to talk about that. I am going to talk on the lessons we learned this COVID time. In PGI, we are seeing something like less than 10% of what we were seeing in Advanced Eye Center. We are not doing regular OPDs because our staff, our students, our faculty is on COVID duty. So we are seeing many less number of patients and less number of surgeries we are doing. And I'm talking about the lessons we are learning. We learned whether the temporary lesson or the permanent lesson, because lessons are important because this virus is a unique virus. This comes under the severe acute respiratory syndrome causing viruses, but this is a very fast mutating virus. It spreads very fast. The bad thing right now is we don't have any treatment for it, and don't know in the time whether it's going to come soon or not. The problem, I said, it spreads very fast through our nose secretion, through the mouth secretion, and this is where the ophthalmologists come into the ENT surgeons come into this thing, that we have worked so near to our field. So this is where we have the unique issues when we are dealing with this pandemic. This is all we did, and this is all you must have done. I don't want to harp about it. We all did triage. We all did their temperature measure, and we gave them a questionnaire. We never allowed the conjunctivitis patients to go to the main areas. This is all the changes we did in our retina clinics and labs. We put down more shields. We put shields in front of our LIOs, our IOs, and we put the N95 masks. We practiced all kind of PPV, which we all know we are using. But what next? So why lessons? Why lessons are important from this SARS kind of a COVID virus? Because these lessons, to my mind, can be permanent also. No doubt, it's a temporary thing, will go, but we should adapt few lessons which are kind of I see as a permanent kind of thing, because how long it's going to stay, we don't know. But we should always remember that our diabetic patients, our aged population, our immunosuppressed patients are seen by the retina specialist. So why not take it as a lesson and do whatever we are doing right now, we should practice in future also, so that we are not able to spread the infectious diseases to these patients. And this is how we can learn a lesson from this COVID. And of course, we have these patients of, the flu is always there. It comes in the month of September, October, and the conjunctivitis is there. The risk of spreading from one patient to another, to doctors, to staff, it is always there. So we should always take it that this COVID-like situation, it is not there, but similar lessons should be used for the future practice. And this is where I'll be talking about the lessons there. So my lesson number one is, there are some things we should make it permanently in our clinics. We should have fever screening of staff and patients. Why not? As I've already said, the infectious disease, the flu, so we should have temperature, measurement of these patients in the normal times also. And we should have contact history in these patients, whether you have a family member who's suffering from flu or whatever you want to ask. We should always ask them, and we should keep using these instruments, shields. We should use face masks. Why not? We are exposing these patients to, if we have sore throat, and if they have sore throat, we are all exposed. All our patients are diabetics, as I've already said, aged, and on immunosuppression. So these are the things I think we should make it permanent in our clinic. And of course, the sanitization of equipment. This thing taught us that be slow in our clinics. Always sanitize the instruments when one patient goes out, and you just try to sanitize your sweat lamp and try to wash your hands. And this should be a permanent solution, for a permanent lesson. And there should be a one directional flow. Here in PGI, we have a doctor area and the patient areas don't mix up. This is from where the doctors enter. You can see this video. And next door I'll be opening, that is the patient area. So patients do not come into the staff area, and the patient move in their patient area. And somebody is planning to have a new hospital. So you should have this kind of a thing. The doctors and the patient, staff and the patient should not mix in the future, because this should be a permanent lesson from the COVID, which I would say. And then lesson number two, COVID taught us that we should be a good clinician. We should go back to the era when we were diagnosing these patients after taking a good history, very long present past history, not jumping into the eye immediately the patient comes, and then making a clinical diagnosis, rather relying on our OCTs or on labs, and unnecessarily we are sending these patients. So COVID taught us that we should be good clinician, and we should do a good amount of, with N95 there, patient at distance, talk to him and try to make a clinical diagnosis, because always rely on your clinical knowledge. This is we should all do and try to learn from the COVID era. And always remember, diseases do not follow the books. It's a good history from where you can clinch the diagnosis. You do take a history, take a naming and meshing, and then make a diagnosis. And then, if necessary, do labs. And do labs like a caveman would have done for his, thing. If caveman, have a, kind of a, he has hunted something, he'll save it for the days there. And we get the OCTs done left, right, and blue. And we should not be doing this. We should have a plan for the OCT, and we should always make sure that after 3 injections, I will do the OCT. And then it should be a planned approach. You should limit these OCT numbers, because this is going to help us in the future also. And OCTA was there all this while, but it has become a really good friend now, because we are not doing these angiographies, we are not doing these ICG, we are scared to do them, because the exposure, the time, the period the patient stays in front of us or the photographer is more, the risk of developing, the infections are more. You can't get COVID testing for every patient and then make him sit on the table. No. So do a OCTA. OCTA will by and large pick all your macular and kind of 90 macular or mid peripheral diseases. Angiography will be required only for the uveitis like peripheral vasculitis, the peripheral disease. So OCTA will take care of the most of the diseases. In the meantime, a larger view OCTA will come, and then we should be able to replace our FFAs and ICGs with this thing, and this is important. And rather than doing, if you have a wide field photography, rather than doing IOs and spending time with the patient, a lot of time, get a good fast wide field photo and make a quick diagnosis and let the patient go. And this is one lesson we should always remember in these times. And of course, as I've said, lesson number 3 is devise the new treatment protocols. When I say devise new treatment protocol, is I just say, why don't you revise your the literature? Why don't you go and read again? Because we have been fond of monthly dosing of anti-VEGF injections, and increases lots of morbidity, lots of mortality in these patients. And then what you do is you will see that the treat and extend is equally important. It is a much better approach, and it decreases the number of visits of the patient. And in future also, this will help our patients. And looking for anti-VEGFs which work for the long time. And then we should always keep in mind that there are steroid implants, and wherever you can give, you should give these patients, because this will decrease the number of visits of the patient. And of course, remember the lasers. Lasers has been an old friend. Lasers is a finite treatment. It's not an infinite. In ROP also, laser is a finite treatment. So if you want to not to give injections of this type or in the future, because it increases so much of exposure, uh, 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 patients, diabetic patients coming to the clinic again and again. So you should do laser in these patients, because to my mind, the laser is a definite procedure. It's a finite procedure, and try to learn to do lasers with the LIO. And here the role of multi-spot lasers come into, because the quick laser, you are able to perform your lasers quickly, and the exposure is less in the future also. And of course, you should know that there are home monitoring tools now. You have at home, these patients need not come to you every month. These diabetic patients, BRB or CRB patients, they have tools, they're very well given in the American Academy of Ophthalmology site, that how they can print a scenario chart at home and put it at 10 feet and do their visual monitoring, rather than and for the near they can do amstelrate, and they can come whenever it is, whenever they feel symptomatic. So the home monitoring tool is not just amstelrate. You can always give them the Snellen chart, the e-charts, and these alphabetic charts are available at the American Academy site, and the printable versions are there, and they can put it at home, and the instructions are very well given in these. So my lesson number 4 is, having a partnership with the referring clinician. A referring clinician is the one who sends you the patient, and he sometimes expects that you send him the patient back. But I think, believe me, he'll be the happiest person if you send the patient back to him. And you should develop a partnership with him so that he can follow up this patient, not only for epithelial defects, not only for the IOP. He can have a look at the patient in the emergency, and he will also feel important that doctor has done the surgery or he has given the treatment, but he is now relying on me for the for seeing that whether this patient is doing okay or not. He will feel involved. So this is one lesson we have learned, that we are operating and then telling the person to follow up. People have been doing it, but we should be doing more in the post-COVID era also, so that the number of visits to the hospital become less. And this is the lesson we learned. And the next is the digitalization. The concept of teleconsultation. We all have been using the WhatsApp for giving appointments to our VIPs, but we never took care of the common man. Even the common man, the smartphone usage is something like nearing 40-45% in India, and it is increasing. So people have access to these smartphones. So it is not for only fixing the appointments only. So you can call those patients who are required for physical examination, only call them only, and you can give them a text to read, show them the websites to read, go to read from. They can, show them what are they using, why are they being referred here. So you can do all sort of activities. You can even see their photographs. If you see post-operatively, patient says, I'm seeing a red thing here, then you not visit to the hospital. You can teleconsult them. And teleconsultation has come up a big way in ophthalmology, psychiatry, derma. They're the branches where the teleophthalmology can be done in a big way. And in future times, the Apple will be able to click photographs. Apple phones will be able to click your angiography also. They will be able to do your refractive error also. Can you imagine? So the phones will be doing everything. So this will decrease the number of visits to the hospital. And this is a lesson number 5 in my mind. And then next lesson is, it taught us better about the self-care. It taught us that we forgot the art of washing hands. We forgot the art of washing hands between the patient. We forgot the art of cleaning a slit lamp ourselves between the patient. We forget the art of cleaning the IO between the patient. And in that way, the patient is also taken care of. You yourself is also taken care. And this is the one lesson which nobody could have taught us. In our lifetime, we have seen this situation. I remember 1916. Most of us were not there when they saw this, the last pandemic, which our parents, our grandparents tell us. So we are kind of lucky or kind of unlucky to face such a situation. So we should all learn some lessons from it. And the conclusion is, I would say, adapt to make these changes permanent. It will decrease your, I don't know, whatever, but it will make your practice better. And patient will feel more involved because they are in direct contact with you or with the resident. And the referring doctor, as I said, the peripheral doctor, he will be able to participate. He will be able to better manage his patients, and he will be a good friend in managing these patients. So thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Dr. Raman, for highlighting all these points. I think you brought a very nice points forward. Uh, I'd like to ask Dr. Shakeen Singh. He is a NABH assessors and he has done so many assessments. Dr. Shakeen, what is your view? What are the changes that Raman suggested?
A wonderful presentation by Dr. Raman. And he has touched everything, I suppose. And I believe we need to learn from this of COVID, personal as well as your equipment care and as well as your patient's care. But of course, the surgical part, which we cannot do on telemedication, telemedication would reduce our burden on OPD, but definitely when we need a precise inspection of a cornea or something else, we need a physical examination. So we must take this as a challenge to improve on ourselves and our practices. And very nicely covered, Dr. Raman has covered almost all the aspects.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Praveen, what are the changes brought in Shankar Nethralaya? I think we used to follow all these things earlier also, but have you got...
I think Dr. Ramandeep has taken a very good take on the whole thing. And
Yeah.
I think if I would want to put it together, I would say it's time to give up that chalta hai attitude, which all of us had in our practice all the time. I mean, washing hands in between seeing two patients was always supposed to be done. It was, why is it a SOP now? We were supposed to be doing it every time we saw a patient, and before that, before we go to next patient, we were supposed to do it. So, but
Yep. Yeah.
so I think that this is very important, that it has taught us that we do it and prioritize the patients. There is nothing wrong in seeing a patient who is not an emergency and giving him an appointment for the subsequent day. Why are we in a hurry to see everything? And the partnership between a referring doctor and a treating person doctor is of utmost importance. It is not going to reduce the number of patients who come to the tertiary care center. It will actually improve because the referring doctor will also develop that confidence that the patient is going to come back to me. So he's going to refer you some more. So you will actually be doing things which you should be doing, and they need not come for glasses to you, and that can easily be done elsewhere. In fact, for teleophthalmology in Shankar Nethralaya, what we have done is we've done a partnership with the Titan Eye Opticals. So there are Titan Opticals everywhere in the country. So they do the vision and refraction, and with that we do the teleconsultation. So we already have the best corrected visual acuity also with us, which is a very important parameter when we want to see the patient as to what is the problem is. So the patient goes to the Titan Center, gets the refraction done, and from there the teleophthalmology is fixed with us, and we have the BCVA with us. So, and AT also can be done there. So these two things can actually be done there, and it's a good partnership. Both ways we are benefited, and patient doesn't have to travel. And this newfound partnership between the referring doctor, which was always there initially also, but now it is more. And I agree with Dr. Ramandeep, this may be here to stay, with nearly 1 lakh patients getting positive every day. I mean, whom will you consider is positive and who will you consider is negative? So you have to follow universal precautions for every patient. That's the only answer.
Dr. Sangeet, as you were telling in the beginning that we should take every patient as a positive, and very important, a point Dr. Raman has touched upon is often we forget is to clean our instrument or a slit lamp ourselves. As we usually see in the Western culture, they do clean it, but we need to be more meticulous, more scientific to clean all parts of a slit lamp, indirect, direct, your frame, your lenses, whenever you reach the patient and you unreach the patient. This step on our part, the practice part, I think would help us in a long way to restrict the disease.
I think Dr. Praveen has rightly pointed out. First, we used to assume like, okay, chalta hai. If I don't wash my hands, it's okay. But I think she has rightly said this chalta hai attitude has gone now, and we are all very careful. We treat all patients in our hospital. We assume that all patients are COVID positive. Whoever walks into our OPD, and we take universal precautions. I'd like to ask Dr. Karamjit because he's working in the government sector. Dr. Karamjit, what are your views?
I totally agree with Dr. Ramandeep that these days we should be extra conscious even in our routine OPDs. So first thing that there should be a separate entry for the patient as well as for the doctors and other staff members. The next thing that we are applying in our OPDs is the use of LIO. So these days we are not using the slit lamp delivery systems because in that you are very close to the patient. Even after applying a shield in front of your slit lamp. And LIO is, I think, the best method to do the laser in a diabetic patients or in other patients in these days. So we are adopting these, but one thing that we are doing in our OPD for a couple of days with the help of district administration, that we are screening each and every patient coming to our IOPD for rapid antigen testing, because we have facility in our hospital. Even the district administration has given target to that team to screen at least 100 patients daily. So as in our hospital, eye and ENT department are combined in the same building. So we are extra cautious. So we are doing screening to all the patients. But as Dr. Praveen says that previously uh, we used to adopt that chalta hai attitude, but now these days one should wash or sanitize their hands after every patient. In that way we can stop the spread of infection to the other patients. And of course our staff safety, our safety is also important. So I agree with Dr. Ramandeep and Dr. Praveen that we should improve our attitude also in this COVID era.
Last words from Dr. Kalia. What are your views? And then we'll move on to the next talk.
Dr. Dinesh.
I just add to,
Yeah, Dr. Dinesh, sir.
let Dr. Kalia speak out first. I just want to add one point that most of the patients, they are not wearing mask properly. Sometimes they take down the nose or even the below the chin also. But what we do at our hospital, we apply a 2-inch paper tape over the mask so that it covers the nose properly. Any patient which comes to the OPD, we apply that before at the entrance of the hospital. I think that gives some protection. Otherwise,
we are also doing the same thing because don't wear mask properly. So one thing we have done is we have got one machine. Every patient or every person who enters the hospital has to stand in front of that machine. That machine identifies whether you have worn the mask properly or not, and only if you have worn the mask properly, it will let you. There is another person who is standing, and then he just keeps on putting that sticker micropore over the nose, so that the patient does not pull the mask.
And these things are not feasible in government.
I think Dr. Ramandeep has brought out very important points, and hope we are able to make these things permanent. In fact, when NABH came, we were made conscious of the quality, and these precautions were applied in theory and part of it in practice also. But COVID has kind of stimulated all that, and we should be able to keep these standard precautions permanent. I just have a few reservations about tele-ophthalmology or teleconsultations, because it really matters what kind of a setup you are practicing in. Because sometimes, and especially with the mobiles and smartphones, people are able to record what you are saying, and then you can probably get quoted for some wrong reasons, and those videos or audios can be morphed also. And the consultation guidelines, which have been issued by the MCI, put the onus onto the physician, along with the consultation and for keeping the record. So if you are working in government sector, probably you are less exposed to the consumer issues comparatively. But I'm a bit concerned about giving teleconsultations on WhatsApp and all, because that record is never there with you. Like, unless you have a teleophthalmology platform where you have a consent from the patient and all the records which are documented and saved, you may end up getting a similar thing as in Sushant's case.
The good thing is, during the COVID time, this is taken care. Government of India has taken care that during COVID time, if you're giving a teleconsultation, then you don't have to keep the record. But yes, when the COVID time will be over, how the things will be, the only time will tell. What we are doing is we are keeping a record of all these things. We are sending a photo of we are giving a prescription and clicking a photograph and sending it to the patient and keeping that prescription in their files actually for the future.
But we are not recording. You can do for your follow-up patients.
Yeah.
Can you add new patients also like that?
Absolutely, sir. New patients also follow patients, because teleconsultation is like patients will register in the morning for first 2 hours from 8 to 10. Suppose they have registered. Now the doctors will start calling after 10 o'clock with their old files.
A full department of telemedicine.
Yeah.
And
right now
calls will probably be routed through that.
Yeah, absolutely. But we already had a department there, but
yeah,
this is what we are doing nowadays.
So in practice,
I totally agree with you, sir. Totally agree with you. Yeah.